thought-provoking and extremely insightful discussion. He's going to talk to you about many things, some of which will be top of your mind, and some of which many of us have never thought about. But before we do that, let me give you a quick introduction to Partha. It's a great pleasure and privilege to welcome Partha to our school. He is a renowned strategist and an innovator in business and economic models. He is the chairman and the chief mentor of Boston Analytics, a firm specializing in providing precision analytical services and financial modeling tools to corporate and government agencies. He is also the chairman of a business intelligence firm called Intersoft KK, based out of Tokyo. Earlier, Partha was a partner at McKinsey & Company and is now founding and managing director of a strategy policy advisory firm, Parth G Ghosh and Associates. He has 2 advanced degrees from MIT in the US, a master's degree in chemical engineering and 1 in business administration. Before that, he was IIT Kharagpur 1971 in chemical engineering, where he won the Institute's gold medal for being the class topper of the entire batch. His clients have included many prestigious organizations, corporates, and governments, as well as heads of state in more than half a dozen countries on issues relating with strategy and policy and implementation thereof. His clients view him as a creative problem solver and a visionary leader. Several CEOs have worked with him, view him as a leader who inspires leaders to build lasting legacies. We are very proud to have him on board of Unitedworld School of Business as chief mentor and chair professor. Now, besides all his consulting and his teaching and all of that, he's an avid public speaker. He enjoys jogging, bicycle riding, and driving. He didn't drive yet, but he would.
I'm thinking of jogging here, though.
And community service and social work is another one of his passions. He and other like-minded professionals in Boston, in and around Boston, have set up an organization called the Boston Pledge, which is a non-profit voluntary organization to stimulate bottom-up entrepreneurship and socio-economic development, and to develop environment-friendly technologies. So I wanted to give him a rousing welcome, and then after that, close.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all of you. It was a great privilege to be with you. Because when I look at you, I look at the future of this country and the world. And obviously, at the same time, it reminded me of the days when I was like you, navigating through different programs around the world. Now, we're meeting at a very historic time. I don't know how many of you realize that the world in the next 25 years will be very, very different. And none of us could even imagine how it might be. But what we could definitely bet on is that the world would be very different from what it is now. And that world will be created by you. So we have to learn from you. And that's why I'm here, to take advantage of your minds, your brains, to see what are the kinds of questions you have in mind. Because the questions that you have, as you evolve the answers, that will lead to a process which I think we will be celebrating in the next 25, 30 years. So my opportunity to connect with Unitedworld Business School of Business, I consider it a very special privilege. As much I would like to say, the big privilege for you, because it is a new school. Anything which is new has the tremendous potential, because you are not suffering from any kind of legacy, the baggage of the past. Now, as Johan was talking to you, I am connected with various schools around the world, like Harvard Business School. Many of you raise your eyebrows when you think of Harvard, but I don't, or MIT, or Fletcher. And the reason I don't raise my eyebrows is because these schools over the years have done a lot of good work, but at the same time, they have developed a lot of liabilities that you do not have. And a lot of the good work that they have done will also become irrelevant, because the world in the next 25, 30 years will be very different. So whatever experience that we have may not apply with as much rigor and vigor as what you would develop in the next 25, 30 years. So that is my fundamental premise from where I want to build my discussions. As you can see, I actually came prepared, but then I decided that it may not be right to use the presentation, I'd rather talk to you and let the world unfold as we speak. Is it okay?
Yes.
If you agree with that, I will ask you some questions to educate myself first so that I can play it back to you. So the first question I have for you is, what is it that you would like to hear? What would you like to discuss right now? What are those outstanding questions in your mind? Anyone?
So since you've taught a number of these schools in the US and maybe some of these schools in India, so what do you feel was the major difference in the management education there and here?
Okay. Give me two. I'll first collect all the questions. Other questions?
So we are doing MBA over here. This theme, MBA is mind-brain activation. Can you talk about this?
Well, that is my turn.
Yes. So we want to know more about this.
Okay. Good. Okay, that's good. That is a term I introduced about a year and a half ago in Calcutta. In St. David's College it was, right? Okay. I'm glad that you remember that. Okay. And next.
So what prompted you to be on board of Unitedworld?
Why Unitedworld? Any others?
You are talking about two tornadoes that are shaking this world with the hurricane. What do you think will be after 2019? What is the
Did you get the question? It's a very important one. No. What he's saying is that in the Calcutta presentation, I spoke about 3 tornadoes, which is going to destroy everything that we know today. But after the tornado, there's a calm, and the new world will emerge. And he wants to know more about the tornadoes. More about the change. Okay, let's go to the talk about it. Any others?
So
Yes, please.
how this particular degree like MBA is going to develop me and my work, my experience and my country as such?
So as you said that Harvard Business School is not contributing too much, I interpret it in that way. Can you elaborate more on that thing also?
No, I did not say that. I didn't. I would be very careful. What I was about to say was, Harvard is also questioning that how we should shape the future of education. So as much as we appreciate the brand, but time has come for a place like Harvard to say that, look, we have to do things differently. And there's a search. What is it? So I mean, that's very important. I think what to take from the Western schools like Harvard, Princeton, MIT, or Yale, that these schools have that ability to continually question what is the next chapter. They're not saying that, look, we have a good brand, let's stick to whatever we have. And that's where you have the opportunity, because you can really, with your faculty members, shape the future of business education, whatever it is. Whatever it is. Yes, please.
So entrepreneurship and innovation at the bottom of pyramid.
Okay. Okay, I think it's very good. I love these questions because what I feel very comfortable right now is the few exhibits that I put together could help me to answer the questions that you raised. So the questions are indeed relevant, and I thought you would be raising those questions. So I would go back to the presentation slide and build on the presentation. And I think if I do that right, this is
So can you take one more question?
yes, please.
What are your views on the 360 degrees approach on leadership that has been said a lot on the newspapers and print media nowadays?
Okay, we'll talk about 360 view of the leadership. Well, thank you very much for contributing to the setup of this meeting. And what I'd like to really talk about is what are the different forces that are active today. Some of them are visible, some of them are invisible, some of them are very early stage, yet to take shape. But all these forces that will shape the future of the global economic system and how I see you in the leadership role in the 21st century. First, I underscore right at the beginning that I believe fundamentally that everyone in this room could be a leader of some kind. Underscore the term sometime because someone could be like Mother Teresa, who was a great leader. Some of you could be like Alexander the Great, who also was a great leader. One was fighting wars, the other one was extending love. Now, within these extremes are people like Adam Smith, people like Bill Gates, people like Jack Welch, people like Leonardo da Vinci or Rabindranath Tagore. They're all leaders of some kind. And in each one of you, that leadership is there. It is up to you to uncover it. And that's the value of an education like this. It's not for the grades. It's not for the tests that you take. Not for the job that you may get right after graduating. But you are here to really understand who you are. And in the process, expand your horizon. And that's what I really believe. And you have got to be a fantastic faculty members with whom you could interact as friends, not as professors. But you're not insulted, but as friends, but respectfully engage in discussions so that you get to know who you are, and in the process expand your personality. Let your personality tower so that you can do things which you want to do. That is life all about. It is not about finding a job in Arsenal or a bank or becoming an entrepreneur. It is a life of becoming enterprising, if I may use the word, where you could be like Satyajit Ray, direct a movie, you can be a painter, or build a huge organization like Bill Gates. So if you have a huge range to uncover, and I think what I like to focus on, a process through which you could uncover this, if you will, the universe within. How do I get to the next slide?
Press the mouse.
Press the mouse.
Yes.
Okay. No, this is fine. So, as I noticed the questions that you have kindly shared with me, it really boils down to these 3 points. So as you could see, I came prepared with understanding of your mind. And I wanted to check whether my understanding or interpretation of who you are is right or not. If I was way away, I wouldn't have used these slides. But it is always helpful to use some slides because they will perhaps stay with you and create some impression in your mind. The first thing that I like to talk about, understanding what are the forces of globalization and what does it mean for you. And it's very, very important. I was today talking to the hotel that I'm staying, the receptionist, and I was with Paul. She's a very beautiful woman, but her behavior fell short of the kind of receptionist that I've used to in Shanghai or Beijing or Tokyo or Bangkok. And I told her that, look, you're working very hard, but I'd like to share with you some fundamental points. Because when I'm looking at you, as much as I admire your beauty, but I'm also thinking of many other receptionists that I deal with in Munich or in London or Shanghai, and you're coming short. And then she sort of stood back and said, what is it? And the point that I made, which is a very common Indian problem, while she was talking to me, she was also talking to another person standing next to her, which is her colleague. And then she was again asking me the same question Jay already answered. It's a common stuff that I watch all the time in India. In a 5-star hotel, in the airport, wherever you go. Now it is important that you realize today, wherever you want to work, any serious person who's looking at you is looking at you with a very wide-angle lens. And it's important that you understand what are the forces of globalization. So in that particular field that you are engaged, you are best in the world. then you don't survive. And that's very important. And I'll elaborate on that. The second point that I like to talk on is the challenges and the possibilities ahead. In other words, as these forces come together, what are the kinds of opportunities that might emerge, and what are the kinds of challenges that you have to deal with, so that indeed you could become an active participant of the data. And the third point is about uncovering the leader in you, which is what I call about MBA, known as Masters in Business Administration. I have always called it as mind-brain activation. And this is the time you've got your undergraduate degree. Now it's time that you activate your mind. Then what is it that your mind is asking for? Brain, so that you can really engage as a problem solver. And in the process, you become an active participant of society. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the name of uncovering the leader in you towards a new state of consciousness. Very important, a new state of consciousness. And that's another thing which is very dearly lacking in our country for 1.1 billion people. The people who are at the top of the pyramid are not conscious of what's happening at the bottom of the pyramid. People at the bottom of the pyramid are struggling so much they do not know how they should behave on the road, how they should cook, how they should take care of their kids, because they just don't know what it is. So they are also suffering from lack of consciousness. It's all across. As a result, if you look at the beauty of the country, it's disappearing very rapidly. And beauty, I do not mean expensive clothes, or ties, or saris. I'm talking about the basic beauty, the landscape, the way we walk, the way we stand, talk, the way we smile. Is definitely, we have a serious competitive disadvantage vis-a-vis when you go to Thailand, when you go to China, you see a lot of energy, a lot of beauty in terms of how they engage. And that is the most fundamental competitive disadvantage that our country suffers from. So that's what I want to talk about towards a new state of consciousness. And these 2 years that you'll be spending in this school, I like to see that you truly develop that spirit of searching for that state of consciousness. It is not an easy task, but it is a task you have to seriously commit to, so that indeed you can see your personality is blossoming like a flower. Okay? Now, given the questions that you have given me, I think these are the three things that we'll be talking, and they're all connected. The first point is about what are the new equations of competitiveness. You know, we love to talk about free market, but as soon as you think of market, it's all about competition. Individual competitiveness, group competitiveness, national competitiveness. You have to run the race faster, for which you have to practice. And we'll spend some time with the name of what I'm calling global enterprising, going beyond entrepreneurship, but literally enterprising. And how do you become an enterprising personality? The second thing that I'll talk about is the arts and science of choices. Because at the end of the day, you are making decisions. You choose to study or not to study. You choose to spend more time in marketing, less time in accounting. You choose to spend more time in the weekend wasting your time in front of the television or getting engaged with Bollywood. Or you choose to do some social service given the poverty right in front of your eyes and walking. These are the choices we made. Mother Teresa made the choice. She could have stayed in Europe, but she decided to come to Calcutta and started serving a small baby. That's how she started. But when she left this world, she had an organization of 380,000 people in 140 countries. Now that's about building leadership. So I think you will be making choices as I go through this presentation right now. You'll be choosing what are the points that you want to engage with, what are the points you do not want to engage with. I will not tell you that, you will choose. But let me tell you, be alert so that you can choose. And the final point I want to make is, like you asked me, why did I choose Unitedworld? Yeah, that's a very good question. Because I'm connected with, I've got 24 hours a day. I'm connected right now teaching. I just finished teaching at Fletcher School Innovation, which is a school of law and diplomacy. At MIT in January, I'll be doing a series of leadership workshops for 5 days. And then at Harvard, I'll be teaching strategic problem solving. But I'm not an academic, I do not teach. I engage in discussion. I'm a management consultant. That's my real profession. And then my biggest area where I'm focused on is the Boston Pledge, which the Calcutta students will get benefit of next time when I come and discuss in Bombay, which is to serve the bottom of the pyramid in this country. Now, these are the choices I made. I was a senior partner in McKinsey & Company. If I was just focused on money and my brand on McKinsey, I would have continued. But I said, why not build a new brand? Unitedworld is a new brand. And I would like to see the next 10 years with you and the alumni. You will become an alumni. If you succeed, the Unitedworld name will shine. And that's why I chose Unitedworld, because it is an opportunity to create a brand which will be known all over the world. But it will depend upon how you engage with today's discussion and with your faculty members the next 2 years of your lives. So that's why Unitedworld. So I always have chosen in my life, whether when I was in McKinsey or whether the kind of clients I served, those opportunities where I do not have to depend on the brand, I'll create a brand. It's very easy to say that I'm a professor at Harvard or MIT with a brand, and you guys will get impressed, wow, he teaches at MIT. But I don't want you to be impressed with that. Really, I don't want you to. I want you to be impressed if I want to impress you with what I'm talking about. Not because whom I'm quoting or from where I'm coming. And I like to see that you develop your personality in the same fashion. That you impress people not by saying that I know Emerson or I know Shakespeare or Tagore, but I like to see that you write poetry like Tagore. We have been celebrating Tagore for too long. Particularly in Bengal, I always talk about it. That look, very good, you had Tagore. Very good. But where is the next Tagore coming? People in England do not spend too much time on Shakespeare. It's a continuous flow. Now it's Harry Potter. And always every 10 to 15 years some brilliant writers appear. I think that's the challenge. And the reason that it's not happening because many people who love literature, they enjoy quoting Tagore. And you spend too much time reciting Tagore as opposed to using your brain. And that's what I mean by brain-mind activation. You write something which will go beyond Tagore. And that's the best way to celebrate Tagore. That's the best way to celebrate Vivekananda. Become like Vivekananda and go beyond. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about in the last part, the leadership capacity, as how to develop the integrative, intuitive, and inspirational personality. Because soon you'll be in this space talking. That will pass very rapidly, because the other day I was a student. But when you are sitting here or standing there, the question that you have to ask, what would you share with the people in front of you so that you can inspire the next generation of Indians for the global citizen? And that's what we're going to talk about. And particularly I'm going to talk about very important, which is my statement, two-letter word. Two-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me. Totally believing in that from the bottom of the heart. That if it is to be, it is up to me. So you have to figure out what is it that you want to be. You do not have any disadvantage, neither do you have any advantage. All the advantages that you have is in your mind and in your brain and in your heart. And the question that you have to ask, and today we'll explore that. What is that to be? And how that you really make it up to be. As opposed to saying, well, so and so did not give me the opportunity. It's too bad I could not go to that school. You find all kinds of excuses, which is not within your control. So you are basically renouncing your control, and then say everyone is bad, I am good, but unfortunately did not have it. That's a very negative way of looking at life, and it's very, very common in India. What I learned in the United States, I noticed that in the first week when I was in MIT as a student, that the general spirit is that if it is to happen, I have to make it happen. it is to be desired. Because then you do not have a chance to blame others. It's up to you now how you want to shape your life. And that is the purpose of this discussion. So, Joyanta, with your permission, I'll talk about these three subjects. Am I on track on terms of the subjects that I've chosen?
Absolutely. Thank you so
It
much.
basically addresses the questions that you have raised and also the ideas, the facts that I've shared. So the first one that I'll discuss with is the globalization. Now the point that I want to make to you first, the globalization as a term maybe become popular in the last 10-15 years, but globalization as a process has been as old as 2,500 years, 3,000 years. You know, it started with the Silk Roads, when in fact India is to play a very important role. The silk from India, the ivory from India, the spices from India, used to spread out all over the world. And there were merchants. I remember a song in Bengali, Banijya Deyavya. And the whole concept was that people used to live home for 15, 25, 30 years, leaving their family behind, to take something to overseas, not knowing when he or she, but in those days it was largely he, but when he will come back. So that spirit has been there, and globalization started, I would say, about 500 BC, since the days of Silk Road. And it was basically trading of raw materials from different parts of the world, which used to happen either on ships or camelbacks or horses. But the period was 25, 30 years of exploration, which you guys in the internet do in 15 nanoseconds. But that used to take 15, 20 years. Now, so I would call the stage one was venture-driven globalization. Then something important happened as the European Renaissance started taking place. You know, many of you have read Shakespeare's Merchants of Venice. The Venice and London and a little bit of, I think, Hong Kong, Shanghai, they started emerging as centers of trade, where instead of people just going and far away, they would come into some hubs. So people will come to Venice from Western Europe, from Persia to trade. And that's how Venice, London, the Western world, a little bit of Shanghai and later part Calcutta became some of the centers of trading, and Bombay also, and Madras. Now that was the European Renaissance period, where it was still venture driven, but people started going to these trading centers to trade. But the big push towards globalization happened when it moved to stage two, which is resource driven. As industrialization began with the steam engine, with the internal combustion engine later, people started looking for raw materials. I need cotton, I need coal, I need iron ore. So particularly Europeans started moving out and looking for raw materials. So this resource search for resources led to the globalization, which led to the development of the colonies. As you know, India became part of the British Empire. That's for the whole period of colonization, which was between 1600s to almost 1900s. But then the stage three of globalization began, which is market-driven. Now this is the time, the first time the American companies started emerging. And American companies' beauty was, America used to be a poor country those days. But what America was doing extremely well, they were extremely innovative, and any idea they developed, they wanted to take to the world in a brand. And that led to a market-driven globalization. Companies like Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble, Heinz started developing. Now, mind you, Heinz is again, the person who started Heinz is from Pittsburgh, comes from a very, very average family, couldn't finish high school, or started making tomato ketchup from tomato. But what Americans were good at, you start with a small mama shop, but you started organizing it. As did McDonald's, as did ketchup. Take over America, then you take over the world. And now Heinz means tomato ketchup. As much McDonald's is America and Coca-Cola is America. But mind you, these were humble beginnings of very humble young people like you who started a business, but with a very honest intention to serve the bottom of the pyramid. By the way, most of these companies were organized to serve the bottom of the pyramid, and then they graduated up to become world leaders. And that is what I would call stage 3, the market-driven globalization. Stage 4 is more skill and scale. That look, if I have to manufacture a car, I have to go for mass production. I have to manufacture 200,000 cars. My market would only take 30,000, so which means I have to export 70,000. That's the Henry Ford era. Mass production, huge plants, huge factories, scale, scope. So we have to sell to the world so that I can take advantage of scale. And now what you guys are living through, which is the stage 5, is globalization, the digitization of the world. Right now, you may have a great product, but if someone in Vietnam develops a product which is 10 cents cheaper, he's on the net. He will buy the product from Vietnam, not from you. The digitization has made competition extremely instant. Your life cycle of your any idea will be very short-lived unless you innovate. So this is how we have gone through the globalization. And I'm talking, make a very important point here, that there's a new renaissance coming, which I'm calling empowerment-based renaissance. How, if you have an idea, how you can share and network the idea and empower others to develop the idea. A new type of renaissance is going to happen. Because the previous renaissance was individually focused renaissance. Leonardo da Vinci's of the world, Isaac Newton's of the world, you know, centered around personal, not glorification, but enlightenment. Now, the enlightenment process has to be a network community-led enlightenment, where the knowledge sharing is very, very important. Am I with you?
Yes.
Now, as I mentioned earlier,
So just if you were to go back, I have a question.
Yes, please.
If you go back to the previous slide.
how do you go back?
Previous, just come to the
You know, when you said empowerment, new renaissance is based on empowerment. One example, one word that came to my mind, do you think is a good example? Like Google, for example, do you think that's a kind of
Google is a very good example. Because if you look at Google versus Microsoft, Microsoft is Windows flow system, you buy Windows on that, you develop. Okay. Google is open system. And you give, you know, it celebrates Vedic philosophy.
Yeah.
Knowledge expands as you give, which we have said in the Vedas 5,000, 2,000 years ago. See, the problem with young kids here, and myself included, that we are forgetting our own philosophy. One request I have for you, to start studying the Vedic philosophy once again. Really, start studying and then see how does it apply. And you'll be surprised. It applies more now, perhaps, 2,000 years ago. We'll come back to that. Absolutely, very good one. Thank you. So now, as I was talking about globalization, a key stage of globalization was obviously impacted by different S curves. By S curve, I mean technology curves, which fundamentally changed the shape of the world. The first S curve, which is the stage 2, resource-driven globalization, was because of the steam engine. Again, James Watt realized the power of steam. One young guy, he was only 19 years old, younger than most of you. Are you guys, anyone younger than 19? James was 19 years old when he realized the power of steam. And that power of steam led to the development of the steam engine. As steam engine developed, that led to the development of the railways. That led to the development of the textile mills which run on steam. That led to the development of shipping lines which run on steam. Steam became a major source of power and a major source of economic development. A major development which took place in Europe, which is called the Industrial Revolution, led by steam, largely centered around England, and then spread around Europe, then moved to China, East Asia. The next big revolution was stage 2 because of internal combustion, where we moved from steam to power the hydrocarbon burning. And that led to the mass motorization of the cars, the jet engine, the airplane, etc., etc. And that's the time that America came into a major force in the world. In the previous S-curve, it was largely Europe, particularly United Kingdom. In the next S-curve, it was the American S-curve. The third S-curve, as you see, which I call the convergence engine, is the convergence of the 4 Cs: computation, communication, commerce, and profit, which is also kind of maturing as we know. But Google to the world, as Jonathan was talking about, is again recreating a new S-curve, which we talk separately. But that is the stage 5, digitization, how information and knowledge is changing the way we live, the way we think, the way we connect with each other, the way we innovate, and the rest of all the different iterations that you can think of. Okay?
Yes. One thing, if you go back to the slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, in this you're talking about the first and the second, it's mostly the energy requirement which mostly get into the development of the S-curve. Do you think like what we are talking about today of the renewable energy or the desert tech project as it is currently being done, is that going to change the world, or are we talking about the renewable from non-renewable energy sources?
That could very well be. Yeah, I'll come to that. Because I'm now talking about the past. So what would be a future S-curve really depend upon the young people in this room. Because I could see a possibility that we do not need the car. Why do we need the car? Why do you have to, so what it is, I could see a possibility of renewable energy theory is still true, that this room, instead of the way it's designed, to still be cool, but most of the energy, instead of this one coming down, be coming from outside, or protect the room from outside. So there'll be new ways of protecting the space and using the light outside. So what it could be, I really cannot predict, but what we could definitely say that the US, which is eco-friendly, hydrocarbon independent, and but what it would be, it really depends on how we do it. But we'll come to that in just for now. That's where I'm coming to actually. Now to define the next S-curve, I think what we have to understand, what right now are the major forces in action? What are the forces really at work today? And I'm saying there are 3 forces on the supply side, which is, I would say, the technology side, and 3 fundamental forces on the demand side. But it never happened actually, that there are 6 very powerful forces which are at work at the same time. And each force is more powerful than the power of a steam engine, or the power of the jet engine, or the power of the convergence engine. But they're all acting at the same time. So you could think of the nature of transformation that you guys are living. His life is very different. It never happened before in history. So you're living through a very interesting time. If someone has write a book after 1,000 years, they would perhaps describe the early part of the 21st century as a period of real reawakening, a period of rediscovery. And it's up to you to take on these challenges so that your names can be prepared in the history books. And that's how you have to look at the opportunities. Am I clear?
Yes.
Now let's quickly go through these forces. The first one is what I talked about in the convergence effect of the information technologies, which is, this product today does everything. I mean, I don't feel disconnected with my office at all. And I'm connected with about 20 different places. There's email, there's a web, I can make a bank transaction anywhere in the world. So the commerce, computing, content, and of course communication have all come together. That's what we're talking about. And now this is, people like Stephen Jobs would say, the founder of Apple, that we are at a very, very early stage of that revolution. You know, touch screen, thought processing, you don't have to even talk. They will understand your thoughts. And then we will get passed on. Now you have to think of what product can you design. But you can capture my thought and you can immediately convert it into a book. But it's coming. Right? So these are what I'm talking about, the first case. The second case is about new materials and nanotechnology. It's a very, very powerful force because what we are talking about, the surface properties of materials, would be utilized in a much more competitive and powerful fashion. Every material has got properties which we have not utilized the way we could as nanotechnology. So the efficiency of material utilization would significantly increase. And the third, of course, is genetic engineering and biotechnology. Very, very powerful force. You know, people are growing organs, you can grow your ear. Today I was watching the television this morning. Yeah, if your leg gets cut off, unfortunately because of an accident, it could be regrown and put in place. I hope it doesn't happen now we go through that. But on the other side, the technologies are available to fix such problems. So these three forces are all happening right at the same time. You really keep in mind. So when you are talking about jobs, you're not talking about jobs. You're talking about where do you want to play the role? What do you want to really do? And how do you want to connect with those opportunities? On the other side, the demand side is also asking for fundamental changes. As Mr. Jain was talking about, people are looking for ecological, eco-friendly, energy-efficient products worldwide. People outside the world are very interested in nanocar, but at the same time, people are saying, why do we have to at all have a car in a country like India or China with 1.2 billion people? Roads are already choked with about 3% of the population which has got access to cars. So think of if you had 50%, not 50, this was not 50, 20%. You know, you would not be able to travel, you'd rather walk. So we have to think about what is that ecological, energy efficient products means. See, with the choice of solutions, people are becoming solution oriented. Many of the questions that you asked me, what happens to me after that? Business schools, be it, education systems, be it, healthcare systems, be it. People are no longer saying that I want education. I think as we say, you want a solution for yourself so you can unfold yourself in a much more effective way. That's why we're talking about mind-brain activation. So every sphere of life, whether it's education or non-education, the choice of solutions, customized solution. So Divesh was talking about one-to-one mentoring system that Unitedworld wants to do. That's excellent. Because the world is, everyone needs a very specific solution. The way I intend to serve you will be different than the way I intend to serve her. And by the way, I'm offering myself my email so you can contact me anytime. I would like to serve all of you because that's my job. You know, what do we do when we say consulting? It's basically a servant who wants to serve people so each one of my clients can succeed. So when I'm talking to you, I'm looking at you as my clients, not as students whom I would like to serve. You may choose not to pay me the fees, that's fine for the time being. For the time being. But for the time being, it's unspoken. In the future, I think it depends upon your generosity and the greatness. The fees can flow. And of course, that goes to the flows, free economic flows. That is another big development of the, I would say, later part of the last century, 20th century, WTO. The unthinkable, the way money is moving from country to country, the products are moving from country to country. So when you say, I'm running out of money, maybe there's someone in India cannot fund you. maybe someone in China will find, because he or she sees the value of what you do. And that has become possible thanks to WTO. Thanks to the kind of discussions we are right now having as we speak in Copenhagen on world environment, I think is opening up new territories, new boundaries, great opportunities, as well as great threat if you do not participate.
So actually, your example, like one of the examples which I like always as to how the world can serve is the microfinance, the Kiva and other websites which actually said that people from the developed countries actually can provide loans as microfinance to people in the developing countries.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we should all feel proud of, you know, after all, when I talk India, by the way, it may not be politically correct, but I look at India from Afghanistan to the old India. That's my definition of India. And one of the reasons I decided to stay out of India because that I enjoy the luxury of still believing India as we used to know, and we should feel very proud that Muhammad Yunus gave birth to a concept, microfinance, which is from this part of the world, which the whole world is embracing. The whole world is talking about this. I think Muhammad Yunus perhaps, after Tagore, is the biggest hero of the South Asian region in terms of the contribution of humanity.
So you just mentioned about Copenhagen Summit. I was just going to ask you the question, do you expect any solution as far as India is concerned, or the developing countries are concerned, to happen in the Copenhagen Summit? Because it is a huge
I have a question. I think I see a great solution, but all of you have to believe first that it has to be a very different type of solution according to behave, and let me tell you what. I like to see that India goes back to villages, become cities. Each village is a center of excellence. They have got the basic amenities from broadband to solar power. They have a village community where there's a school, there's a temple, there's a mosque, there's a church, or whatever religious institution you want to have. There's a cricket and a football ground. But each is a community where people are self-sufficient, connected with each other the way the Britishers did the railways, internet, very limited use of cars. So that could India provide because the Vedic philosophy has already given the answer. Vedic philosophy, how many of you have read the Vedic Vedas? Okay, maybe that should be part of the curriculum. I would like to offer that from Boston. through the internet, on the street.
Digitization.
Through digitization, I'll offer that. Because I'm going to teach Vedic philosophy to MIT students in January 15th to 21st in my part of my leadership program. Now, if I boil it down, the Vedic philosophy, basically there are 3 points. First point which we're going to cover today, know thyself. From where you can say, if it is to be, it's up to me. Know thyself. Know who you are. True sense of the self. The second part of the Vedic philosophy is about harmony within nature. As soon as you take the concept of harmony with nature, true sense of the self, this community concept that I was talking about, the village centers of excellence, and let there be millions of such villages, each with about 1,000 people. I think that's the India we live in. And where a lot of dosage of Sanskrit. The Sanskrit is a very powerful, efficient language because each word has got a lot of content. So if you want to move into that instant culture, we're talking about that, first you have to go back to Sanskrit and enjoy the relish the beautiful words that Sanskrit provides. So I could see that India could really bring that to the world. In the name of Copenhagen Summit, as opposed to talk about carbon trading. Those are minor points. India is meant for some much bigger role, which India is not playing. You know, when Manmohan Singh went to Obama's big party, I expected much more. I expected Manmohan Singh to be able to say that, look, we understand Afghanistan. Alexander came from Afghanistan. We understand Pakistan. It is the place where Harappa Mohenjo-daro civilization grew. You have to take a much more holistic approach. It is not Taliban versus Al-Qaeda versus X versus Y versus Z. The more you cut it this way, the more problems you will create. You will never solve the problem. But then Indian leadership has to bring the Vivekananda-like charisma to the world out there and deal with Afghanistan and Pakistan, because these countries were originally very much part of the Vedic culture. Now, when a culture gets broken into pieces, think of your backbone cut into a couple of pieces.